I think we're on. Test 1, 2. How's everybody? How you doing? Spring cold weather?
Not too bad of a turnout for snowy and icy.
Do you, a lot of people that watch us on TV.
Do you want to open, or do you want me to?
Well, we'll go ahead and get started. It's about 6:30. I want to welcome everyone and thank you for coming out tonight. Welcome everyone also that's watching from home. We've got a couple guest speakers today, so we're excited about tonight's meeting. And please, at any time, if you have any questions, certainly yell at us or throw something at us, and we'd be glad to answer any questions that we have. We're certainly thankful of the community's participation and support of the police department. We're very appreciative, and that definitely shows through in the interactions and the responses that we're getting. And so I'll let Shelby talk a little bit about last month's crime trends, some of the things that we saw, some of the things that came up, and then she'll introduce our guest speakers and go from there. So thank you guys very much.
Hello, guys. I'm really happy to see this many people out with the roads like they are. They're starting to melt off, but they still, are treacherous in some spots. So I'm glad to see that everybody came out. But that's what we have Channel 13 for, is for the people who don't want to brave the ice and cold. This month, last month in January, we did see some burglaries, but they were down again from the month before. We had 11 residential burglaries, 2 vehicle burglaries, and a commercial burglary. So that's actually down 2 from the month before, which was down 4 or 5 from the month before that. So we are seeing a decline in burglaries. And once again, I completely blame you guys. I think that you guys are looking out your doors and you're seeing people and you're starting to call in, and you guys are realizing what the definition of suspicion is, which is anything out of the ordinary, right? So you're starting to call in stuff that you see, and I really believe that brings down our burglaries. The reason we have the Neighborhood Watch program is because it multiplies our eyes. You guys help us, and we love it. You know, we go from having 25 officers to having 10,000 officers, and that's what Neighborhood Watch is all about, is watching out for your neighbor and helping them. So I'm really excited to see that we are once again declining in our burglaries. Another thing that we did last month was Coffee with a Cop. We had this at Utopia, and it was a very successful event. I was very happy with the turnout. We had probably 40, 45 people there overall, and we had lots of officers stop in. We had everybody from Chief and Captain Andres to the on-shift guys like Lieutenant Bradley and Officer Adams, to the SRO, Brian Twitchell. Everybody showed up. They had a good time. They talked to the public. The reason for the Coffee with a Cop was sometimes police officers in their uniforms can be a little bit intimidating, and people have questions, and they don't really want to approach an officer when they think that they may be busy, like on shift and that sort of thing. So we just wanted to create an environment where citizens could come in a relaxed atmosphere and talk to police officers. I'm telling you, did they? We had a group of ladies who came in the end that they had prepared questions written out, and they were brutal. They interrogated us over stuff, and it was all great questions. And that's what we saw throughout the whole day, the whole morning, I should say, because it was a couple-hour event through the morning. People came in and they had questions and they had prepared to come talk to us. So I was very excited how the turnout was. I think I've got Chief talked into doing it again. So hopefully a couple of months down the road, we'll have another Coffee with a Cop. So it turned out pretty well. Without any further ado, we have a couple of great speakers tonight. We have Sergeant Detective Quinn Bromley and Sergeant K-9 Darren Daly. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because they have lots of experience, and they are going to be your speakers tonight. Quinn's going to be talking first about how to spot a drug house. Ish.
Thank you, Shelby. Can everybody hear me? I'm not used to talking behind a podium. I like to get out and walk around. Can I take this off and walk with it?
You take one of the wireless ones.
That would work even better.
Let me get one that's not on a battery. There you go.
Now, how far can I walk out before I step out of view? Where's the line at? Okay, this is a little better for me. I don't like being back behind the barricade. My name is Quinn Bromley. I'm a detective sergeant with the police department. I have approximately 23 years on the department now. Started off as a reserve police officer in 1989 and joined the police department in 91. My job right now is primarily tasked with investigating drug crimes. I do help out with the property detectives when they need help, whether that's working crime scenes or processing evidence or things like that, giving some advice. Shelby asked me to talk to you a little bit about spotting drug houses. I too want to thank you guys for actually getting involved. It is important that people in town get involved to help us. I am the only one investigating full-time drugs. Now the patrol officers do what they can, but unfortunately, they have other calls for service, have to investigate other property crimes and person crimes, and they don't have a lot of time to devote to proactive enforcement. So it is important that we have extra eyes and ears out there, and that's where all of you come in. First of all, can anybody tell me what a drug dealer looks like? What does a drug dealer look like? I don't know. What does a drug user look like? I ask everybody this. The answer is, they look like all of us. We can stereotype, but we really shouldn't, because in the end, that doesn't get you anywhere. We want to put together good, solid cases, and that starts off with a basic foundation that's good and solid. Drug dealers and drug users range from ages and races and backgrounds, economic conditions, employed, unemployed. There's just too many variables involved. So for you and the public at home looking out your window, you can't really base it off of any of those kind of identifiers. So what I would like to do is give you some advice on how to properly identify suspicious activity, which could or may not be drug activity. First of all, you know your neighborhoods better than anybody else. You certainly know it better than me. So when you start seeing suspicious activity, the first thing you should do is start paying attention to it and start trying to figure out a pattern. Is it somebody just having a birthday party and there's a lot of traffic? Or is it something a little further than that? Perhaps it's something more consistent, or maybe it's inconsistencies. What I look for, and I'm not going to give out all my trade secrets, of course, tonight, but what I do look for are traffic patterns and the way people interact. Something that you should look for when you do think that something is going on in your neighborhood is to document the tags of vehicles. All right. License plates are very important to me. I can typically run those and get an idea who is in that area. I may do a background check on that person, see if we've had any contact with them. The other thing that you need to try to look for is the person's descriptors, whether it's a male or female, what they're wearing, approximate age, height, weight, all that kind of stuff. The other real important stuff that I need are dates and times. The date that you're seeing the activity going on, and also when that activity is occurring, whether it's in the morning, afternoons, in the evenings. If you can narrow it down to they were there from 10 o'clock at night till 10:15, that would be great. And also how many other vehicles are coming in during that time period. Also, don't get fixated on whether or not it's vehicles. People, a lot of individuals that are using drugs and buying drugs, they are walking into neighborhoods because they know that's what we're looking for. So watch for people walking, using alleys, cutting through yards, being on bicycles, motorcycles, a vehicle pulling up, dropping somebody off, going around the block, coming back out, picking them up. Those kind of things are important for us. Don't get fixated on, well, it's a really nice fancy car and it's a young guy driving it. No, that doesn't mean anything. It could be his parents' cars, and it could be visiting somebody. So that's what we don't want. Now, if you want to write the tag number down, go ahead and we'll look into it. But the obvious stuff or the unusual traffic patterns, patrol officers are a really good, valuable tool for me. I can give them the information that you give me, or you can give it to them and they can give it to me, and we will do that background investigation on those individuals. I ask that people be very patient because drug investigations take a lot of time. I know that when people in their neighborhoods see people doing suspicious things, there's nothing that the officers can do right that moment. They call me up and they say, hey, we see so-and-so over here, they're selling drugs, but come and get them. I wish it was that easy. I have to actually prepare a very lengthy investigation, present it to the prosecuting attorney, get search warrants and that kind of stuff, and it takes a lot of time. And there's a lot of legal aspects to it that we have to follow. We certainly don't want to violate anybody's rights, and we want to put together a good solid case so that when we do make an arrest, that it actually does proceed through the criminal court system and there's a really good conviction. So those are some of the things that you should look for. Drug houses, they vary. They're not low-income apartments. They're not, they're not just low-income apartments, and they're not just homes. They range from any structure that you can get into, a really nice multi-million-dollar home to a tent. People sell drugs underneath bridges. A lot of people have gone away from selling out of their homes, and they're actually doing it out of their vehicles because they know that we're trying to take proactive steps such as this, and a lot of communities are experiencing that. So the dealing doesn't actually occur at those residences. They're actually going out and away from their own neighborhoods and going to other neighborhoods. The days of people standing underneath the street light and cars pulling up, those days have gone. With the information and technology out there right now, social media, everything is prearranged and people meet at different locations. There are things that with technology that make our job a little bit harder, but there are technologies out there that also make our job a little bit easier to counteract that technology that's currently being used. And I won't give away those trade secrets either. So what can you do? Again, what I'd like you to do is keep an eye on the traffic patterns that you see in your neighborhoods. All right. Write down those tag numbers, document those dates and times. I ask people, is it occurring more on the weekends or during the week? Is it happening in the afternoon during the lunch hour, or after 5 o'clock, or after 10 o'clock, before 6 a.m.? Let me know these things. Just don't get fixated on, the guy driving the flashy car, or, a group of young people congregating in front of a house. A lot of times, that isn't really what it is. It's actually something innocent going on. But most certainly document it. Really and truly, there's no great secret science, to it. It's just building up a pattern, establishing that pattern, documenting all the individuals, and then going from there, and then building a good solid case. And that's what I'd like you to do. Give me a call, give Shelby a call, call down the police department. We'll certainly look into anything that you see.
Anybody have any questions?
Is drug traffic on the rise in Coffeyville, or is it pretty stable?
I would say that it's actually down a little bit. It's definitely gone underground because of our proactive enforcement. Again, we have put a lot of people in jail that are in prison right now, and so they're not out there doing it. Other people see our efforts, and they are thinking twice about that. The individuals that are selling drugs, they're opportunists. They are, they have an opportunity to go out and make their money legitimately, like all of us, but they choose to sit back and not do that and sell drugs to try to make money the easy way. And they're actually victimizing people, their own neighbors. And so, you know, I think that it is important that we target those people as opposed to just the users, but we have to sometimes use the users to get to those people. So overall, I think our efforts have been very fruitful, and we have reduced it pretty significantly.
In your opinion, what is the choice drug in Coffeyville? We are told that heroin is becoming quite popular throughout America and less expensive in some areas. In your judgment, how do you figure that the choice drug is?
That's actually a very good question. Right now in Coffeyville, methamphetamine, crystal ice methamphetamine, is the predominant drug in Coffeyville. However, I was just telling the officers, heroin is starting to show its presence in our area. Tulsa County is experiencing a lot of problems with it, and some of the counties south of us are. So if they are, we probably are, and we just haven't seen it as of yet. It's probably here. It's heroin is a horrible, horrible drug. All of them are. There's no doubt about it, but it is definitely coming this way. And we have been fortunate that it used to be a West Coast and East Coast drug, but unfortunately it has made its way into the heartland of the United States, and now we're going to start having to enforce that as well.
Where do you think the primary source is coming to Coffeyville from? Where? What is the primary source in your judgment?
Which drug?
Wichita?
No, which drug is that you're talking about?
Any of them? Well, marijuana, that's, but crack and the heroin. Are they different locations in your judgment? In other words, heroin from this area and crack from this area and marijuana from that area?
Good question. Crack cocaine is actually decreasing in Coffeyville. People that were using crack cocaine are now using methamphetamine. The marijuana and methamphetamine are coming across the border from Mexico. And actually all the heroin that was coming into the United States on the east and west coasts are now starting to find traffic patterns through Mexico. The cartels are starting to get their fingers involved in the heroin trade as well, not just the Asian crime syndicates.
In your judgment, do you think we have any primary dealers in Coffeyville?
We do.
Primary?
We do.
We do?
We do. I will tell you that in 2010 and 2011, the Coffeyville Police Department participated with federal and state agencies in a multi-state, large-scale drug trafficking investigation. There was actually two going on at once in Coffeyville, two separate organizations. Both of those organizations, the first one was, there were many arrests made on that, and in the second organization, the primary was taken out, as well as some of the lower subordinates. And there are additional arrests to be made on that through the United States Attorney's Office, but we're waiting on that.
With our population decreasing, do you anticipate drugs becoming more prevalent or less prevalent in your judgment?
That's tough to call.
I like that.
That is a tough one to call. And I would say that probably the verdict's out on that right now. The verdict is still out on that right now. I would hope that it would decrease with the numbers of people decreasing. But statistically in the United States, drug abuse is increasing amongst all ages. I just read today where drug abuse has increased for people aged 50 to 70 years of age. It is skyrocketing among that age group. I don't know if it's because they were young people in the 60s or what that trend is, but for some reason in the last couple of years it is starting to really move up. Interestingly enough, 12 to 17-year-olds, the drug use is going down a little bit, and that's actually something positive.
Well, thank God I'm 88, so I'm past that.
You had a
Any
question?
thoughts about prescription drugs? A lot of kids are getting into prescription drugs, maybe some advice on that.
Yes. one of the other groups that we are seeing a lot of abuse on is the prescription medication, not just use, but the actual sale of prescription medication. Everything from Oxycontin, Vicodin, all the painkillers, some depressants like and some barbiturates are all being taken out of the medicine cabinets and being sold. Again, the age groups vary, but there's an increase in the older generation that are actually selling those prescription medications. The prescription medications are being obtained through doctors, and then they're immediately being sold. And then, they're getting, the prices range and vary for each pill, depending on that type of pill. I've seen some pills go for as much as $30 a tablet, and some going for $3 a tablet. And a lot of it depends also on milligrams and things like that. But it is on the rise.
So with the prescription medications, we've taken some steps towards getting those off the street, such as like our drug take-back days. Do we have any of those scheduled?
The next one will be at the next citywide cleanup, and I don't know when that is scheduled. Sometime this spring, I believe.
I think in April.
So that is one of the things that we have been asking the public to do is go through your medicine cabinets and pull all the old medication out. Bring it down to one of the officers at the drug take back. We'll get that and we'll make sure that it's incinerated properly. It keeps children out of the medicine cabinets. A lot of the kids are taking meds to school. They don't have a clue what those things are and are taking them. And they're trading them for other drugs. So it's important that everybody at home goes to their medicine cabinets and do that. I just did it just about a week ago, actually. Made some nice space in the lower cabinet. So.
Do you think there are a lot of Dr. Feelgoods in this area, in your judgment?
Tough one to answer. I would say that most of the doctors generally are genuine in Coffeyville. There are other sources for the medications that people are getting them online. They are going out of state and doing doctor shopping. They're just going from doctor to doctor to doctor getting prescriptions. And that's typically how they're being done. Or they're being stolen out of the grandparents' medicine cabinets or the parents' medicine cabinets. And again, again, don't get me wrong, it's not, and don't misunderstand me, it's not kids doing this, it's everybody from 17 and up.
Thank you, Sergeant, for coming out and talking with us. The next person we're going to have come speak is Sergeant Daly. He's going to be talking about his police canine Rommel and kind of what his job is, and he's going to do a short demonstration in the end to show you Rommel. So.
My name is Darren Daly. I'm a patrol sergeant here at Coffeyville Police Department. I've been here for, I think, 17 years. I do have a new police canine within the department. His name's Rommel. This will be my actually second dog here. My first dog I had was Arco. He worked for the city for about 9 years. Rommel and I are just getting started. Rommel is a Belgian Malinois. They're a cousin to the German Shepherd. When you see him, you can look at him and you can kind of tell that you can see some German Shepherd characteristics with him. He is from Holland. We picked him up. We use basically a vendor that comes down in Texas who supplies the Kansas Highway Patrol with all their dogs. We went down there, tested the dogs that they get, and then we make a selection, and then we bring them up and we go through a school with the Kansas Highway Patrol, and where we teach. Basically, Rommel was a green dog is what we call. He had no training whatsoever. No obedience, no nothing. So we teach them obedience, we teach them narcotics detection, and Rommel is what we call a dual-purpose dog. So he's also trained in patrol works. And patrol work is basically tracking, looking for fugitives, building searches, and also locating what we call article searches, which could be locating evidence. Let's say with that, it could be see a shooting happens and suspects flee in a vehicle and they toss the gun out to a field as they're, escaping. We can use Rommel to go out, locate that firearm, hopefully, and things of that nature. So he's definitely a plus for our department. We can, not that we would want to, but we can put Rommel in harm's way when one of us don't have to go in harm's way. That could be from checking attics, crawl spaces, and like I said, the building searches themselves and that nature. He's 21 months old. He's still got a lot of puppy in him. He's very energetic. You'll see that. Does anybody have any questions? I can go ahead and answer a few of those before I bring him up. If anybody's got anything? Yes. The training work, we've completed the training. We actually started this program, it was a year ago, this past December. We started with a dog, and I started the school actually in the spring with this dog, and he didn't work out. And so then we started over with the second dogs, and I ended, because they have a spring and a fall class is what they have, and then I started in the fall class with the second dog. Well, about a few weeks into that, he didn't work. So then we started off, got Rommel in this third try, and he worked. So his training's done in that respect, his basic training. But like I tell officers, because sometimes they'll expect a lot out of him, but he is basically like one of them when they're fresh out of the academy. He's still got to be exposed to a lot of environments. He doesn't, there's like, I did some training the other day. We was at a ranch, and there's cows everywhere. He'd never seen a cow before. So, I mean, it's a new, you got to expose them to new environments, and it's just it's going to be a continued process probably throughout his career. Yes.
I have a question and a follow-up, please. How much did the dog cost?
He cost $9,000. 9,000.
9
Yes. 9,000.
9,000.
Yes.
Okay.
And
How many times did it bit you?
None. And Derek, could you tell our audience how much this whole program cost the taxpayers? $0. Rommel was purchased with asset forfeiture money, which is money and stuff we've seized from drug dealers. The vehicle was purchased that Rommel's transported in. That was also purchased with the drug money that we've seized from our local drug dealers here in town. So they bought him for us to help us out.
On
Unbeknownst.
television the last few days, it showed a lady with a dog bit her in the face.
Yes.
Aren't they trained to go for the arm or something?
During our training, that's what happens, is we use a bite sleeve. Sometimes you've probably seen on TV a bite suit, but when it's a real world situation, I mean, and when we're doing the training, those dogs know that sleeve there. We call it a hidden sleeve, where we'll wear like a bulky, coat, but the dogs still know it's there. I mean, realistically. So, but when it's a real life scenario, to us, it doesn't really matter where they engage the suspect at, as long as they engage the suspect. I've seen them, whatever's available sometimes is what they'll grab first. But any other questions? Okay, I'll run out and get him. Shelby, if you want to talk for a few minutes.
Oh, you invited me to talk. Anybody who knows me knows that's my favorite thing to do. So while we're thinking about this, does anybody have any questions that have come up on either side of the spectrum with the narcotics or the asset forfeiture fund that I'm sure you guys hadn't heard about that before? Basically, that's kind of the neatest thing we have is you sell drugs, we get your things, we get to sell them, so we get the money, or we seize the money from the profit from it. So that is pretty awesome for us, because then we get to use it for new equipment and things like that. I think that we're actually trying for a throw phone with that money too. So like if we had a barricaded subject, we could use that. So there's some neat stuff that come out of that program. One thing I do want to touch on while we're waiting for him is I am going nuts, guys. I drive down the street, I look at houses, and people do not have their addresses posted on their house, the 911 numbers. So I'm trying to encourage everybody at home and here, if you have the chance, go outside and put numbers on your house. This helps you not only when police are responding, but say an ambulance needs to come to your house. You know, they slow down and they're having to count houses instead of just being able to look at your house and see the numbers. Good places to put it are on your mailbox if you have a mailbox on the street, which most people have to now because the mailboxes on the porch is kind of going on the wayside. So if you have a curb, an actual curb, or on your mailbox, or a lot of people put it on their porch, like the actual steps, and they'll put it on the second stair, so we'll check it out there, or on the side of the building. So just anywhere that's visible from the roadway in big, bright numbers. I have white numbers with, black numbers on a white background so people can see it when they come up to my house. And I don't care how you get them on there. Your neighbors will probably yell at you if you're spray painting it on your house, but just somewhere where it can be seen. So if you have an emergency and you need an ambulance or you need a fire truck to your house, the fire truck, we can usually follow the smoke, but if you need an ambulance or something, we'd like to be able to see the numbers. And I don't know what it's been lately. It seems like every house I've been responding to, there hasn't been numbers on it. So I actually went in and to a commercial business the other day because they just gave me an address. I said, hey, you guys call me? They're, nope. Like, what's the address here? I was one down. I had to go one more down because even the commercial businesses didn't have them posted. So that is a great thing to get up on your house is the post-it numbers. Some of the other things that we're seeing, I preach about it a lot, is if you lock your car, you don't get stuff stolen out of them. With our vehicle burglaries, I have never worked a vehicle burglary where the vehicle was not already unlocked. Don't put stuff in plain view. Like if you have a laptop and you need to leave it in your car, don't leave it on the front seat where everybody can see it. Don't leave your GPSs in the window. GPSs are a popular item. So lock your car doors and put the items in like your glove box or your trunk, or better yet, take them inside. But make sure you are locking your door. Really, car alarms are great. In previous, looks like our star is back here, so I'll let him work the room.
Oh, good job, buddy. Rommel is his training. Rommel's training is most of his commands are in Dutch and German. That's kind of been the basis of the philosophy when it comes to training police dogs. That's where it all originated around the turn of the century, was actually in Europe. They still have probably like I said, Rommel was from Holland. The United States does have breeders here in the United States, but Europe's been doing it for so many years, they're still generations ahead of what's available here in the United States. When I picked Rommel up, actually, he had only been in the United States about 2 days when we went down and tested and selected him. And excuse me. But so that's kind of why they still get them from Europe. Most of the military, they get a lot of theirs from Europe, just the same as we do. And they're basically trained on the same philosophies and same principles. Training, there's always variations of different training. Everybody's got their way of doing things. But ours is based basically on principles that were developed in Germany many years ago. So what I've done here is I've hidden a drug find here in the room. It's not near anybody out here, so you're all safe. Chief might want to move though. But there wasn't a lot of locations for me to use while I was in here, so Rommel's what we call a passive indicator. And a passive indicator, when they've located what they believe is the drug source, they will sit or lay down depending on the location of the drug source is at. There's aggressive indicators, which you've probably seen those, as they dig at the drug source when they've located it. And but he's what we call a passive. And what I'll do is I'll kind of start out just kind of letting him working around, and then you should see his indication.
Do you have to take him back once a year and get retrained or something?
We train every week. Now we do maintenance training with the Highway Patrol every 2 weeks.
but we recertify every year. Once a year, we recertify. We go down, excuse me, go to Topeka. They have judges there, and then we got to go through their certification process, which is quite lengthy. But we have to do that, and we do that once a year. It's not required by the state, but it's something that pretty much everybody does because you want a certified dog. 'Cause that's the first thing when you go to court, is your dog's certified. Yes. So that's
I see on TV, some dogs, they have body armor on them.
yeah, some do. Some do. The body armor, it's not bad, but a lot of problems that dogs have with the body armor, it's too hot. They will quickly overheat them, and sad to say, but most dogs, if they get killed in the line of duty, most of them are usually shot in the head. So it is a good tool. Some agencies use it. I've never used it. I don't know of any agencies here in Kansas that really use it that much, but it is available and it's out there. So I'm going to go ahead and work him real quick, and then I'll answer some more questions. Good. What Rommel's looking for when I give him his task command, he's looking for his training aid or his toy. What he believes is that when his toy is where the drugs are located. So when he's hunting out here, he's thinking, I'm looking for my toy. Where's my toy at? He's what we call a primary trained dog, and that's, like I said, where he believes his training aid is the source of the drug odor. There are secondary dogs, which you'll see, they'll go out, they'll sniff, they'll sit, and then they'll look at the handler, and the handler gives them the toy. For us, what works better is the primary method, where he believes he's hunting for that training aid. And you can see they like to play with it quite a bit and how enthusiastic he is. Yes?
What does the dog weigh, please? Your judgment.
I'd say about 85, probably about 85, 86 pounds.
Will he grow larger, or do you keep him about that weight?
That, I don't think he'll grow, hopefully not much larger. I mean, I don't know. Like I say, he's only 21 months old. I don't think he'll get much bigger than what he is now, but that's probably about an ideal weight. You really don't want him much bigger than that. Good job, buddy. Yes?
Detect all drugs, or there are only certain types?
There's only certain types. It's only illegal narcotics. We don't train on, pills, prescription pills, and stuff of that nature. Basically, we're looking for the illegal drugs, and that's what gives us probable cause to get search warrants, or to, if it's a vehicle for that matter, to make entry into that vehicle.
Do you do it all, crack, meth, marijuana?
Yes, yes.
You feed him wet or dry?
I feed him dry.
Dry?
Yes.
Does he get along with the other officers when you take him in the station? Take care of
Notice we're all hiding over here.
Yeah, he gets along. I usually don't bring him in the station that much. we're kind of in the process of, we're starting a remodeling pretty soon. So like we do have like an air crate that I would normally probably keep him in, but I don't have that here right now because, like I said, we're going to be moving and packing things up. So primarily most of the time he usually just stays in the car.
Do you always have them on a leash when you send them in for a search?
No. Basically, I had him on a leash here, and you should do multiple different ways. There's times when it'll be best for him to work offline, and there'll be times when it's best to have him online. Now, if he's looking for a suspect, if I put him in a building, for example, he'll be offline. He'll be working on his own. Usually, primarily what we do is maybe come up, we send him in, let him work for a little while, and then we'll make our entry. Because one thing you always got to remember, even though the dog may be been in that room, and he didn't indicate of anybody being in there, it's not clear until we've looked in there. Yes?
What is his range in your judgment?
What?
His range, how far out do you work him?
Um,
Or let him go, or what have you?
if you're talking about like a building search or something of that nature, or
What's your range?
tracking somebody,
Yeah.
if I'm tracking somebody, I'll keep them on a 15-foot line is what I use when I'm tracking someone, if the environment permits it. Now, if we get
That easy.
Now, if we get into an environment where it's real, if a line's going to be detrimental, where he's going to get tangled up, and something of that nature, then I'll work him offline. I'll let him get out, maybe work a little ways, and then I'll down him, and then I'll proceed. But like I said, environment's going to depend a lot on that.
When you got him, did he understand German or?
No, he didn't know anything. He didn't know anything at that time. When we got him, like I said, he was raw green. He didn't understand anything.
But you teach him?
Yeah, we teach him.
Did you teach him all the commands?
Yes.
Or?
Yeah, we teach him we call them task commands. We teach him the task commands as we're teaching him how to perform what we want. And I like doing it this way. Some places now you can go out and you can buy a dog that's already trained, and some people do that. It's better for them. For us, my personal preference, I like training the dog. That way, I can learn. You kind of learn. Each dog's different, and he doesn't work the same way Arco did. Arco worked totally different. So when you're teaching them, you learn their cues, and you kind of become a team when you're working together and you're training together.
When he's not working at home, is he good around kids or?
One thing people always got to keep in mind that these are working dogs. They're not pets. And now, I have children at home, but do I let her have anything to do with him? No, I don't. I'm the only one that takes care of him. I'm the one that feeds him, gives him water, and does everything. Nobody else in my family does. Not that I suspect that anything would ever happen, but it's just better that way. And when people, like I said, they got to remember that these are working dogs, and that's how they need to be treated. They're not a pet, because you don't want something bad. Because little kids, you never know what a little kid might do. Come up, grab the dog around the head or something. And we've all seen those horrible videos. So.
So he's in a crate when he's at.
No, I have a kennel at my home where he can run free, and he can be a dog. When we're at home and it's his off time, I'll let him be a dog. I'll let him have his time off. I get my time off. So. Any other questions? All right. Should we do this?
I do really appreciate you guys coming out. I'm glad that you came out to see Rommel. I'm very impressed with him. I actually haven't seen him get to work either, so I was pretty excited to see it too. If we don't have any further questions, I'm going to go ahead and conclude tonight's meeting. And if you guys have any follow-up questions or anything like that, feel free to either check us out on Facebook, where this will later be posted on podcast. You can ask us questions on there, and we'll try to get them answered. Or you can always just come in and talk to us. Thank you guys for coming out tonight.